Hey, hello everyone. My name is Aboli, and in this webinar, I'm going to be talking about how to run a remote design sprint for your team. Before I begin, a little about myself. I'm an independent UX consultant with over a decade of experience in user experience research and design. Um, I've been conducting design sprints for various clients, big and small, be it on-location sprints or completely remote sprints conducted online. Um, Again, another note before we begin is that this webinar is mostly focused on a smaller version of the typical Google Ventures developed 5-day design sprint. This is a much smaller version. And more focus is on ideation or diverge and converge step. Of course, everything has been taken care of, but this is more focused on ideation. Um, for more information of what a design sprint process is, you can refer to my last webinar on how to set up your first design sprint. All right, so here we go. So let's quickly recap some content from the last webinar about design sprints. We'll just briefly look at what a design sprint is and then take it from there. So what is a design sprint? A design sprint is really a process for teams to come together to brainstorm and solve design problems in 1 to 5 days. So sprints can be held at a specific location. So for example, a meeting room or like a big conference room, or they can even be conducted online or remotely. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Also, design sprints follow a process of taking up specific business challenges and user goals, and then finding solutions as a team through design, prototyping, and testing your solutions with end users. You can hold design sprints at any stage of your projects. They are really helpful at any stage, be it creating a new product or a service. It could be redesigning an existing product or a service, or it could even be something as small as adding a few features or adding new features to an existing product or a service. So design sprints are good at any stage of a project. And now let's take a look at when do we need a remote sprint. So with the growing trend of remote teams and globally distributed teams, it becomes important to be able to collaborate and work on digital products remotely. So there are a lot of globally distributed teams these days. Again, many times the clients who want to build a product work with teams who are not co-located. So that could be one more reason of, like one of the many reasons that you would require a remote sprint. And then again, an increasing number of people are working remotely these days. They're opting to work remotely. So it's better to involve everyone and build a great product using remote sprints. So yes, remote sprints, while they sound fun, they're not easy. There are a lot of challenges that you would face during a remote sprint. And some typical challenges, I would say, are since people could be, like we said, people could be scattered globally, and then there's this big time zone problem where, of course, teams could set up a time and meet together, but imagining a longer 8-hour session together with hardly any overlap between global teams becomes difficult. So scheduling and gathering a team for longer duration due to time zone differences is really difficult. Then again, remote sprints lack a physical location. So real face-to-face interaction and activities doesn't happen the way that they should be, or we think they would not. We really miss the real whiteboards and sketchings as teams, or maybe splitting into teams and competing to build something useful, or using real sticky notes or dot voting stickers for critique. Like physical things are not possible. So that could be a challenge. Then again, there's a possibility of low engagement. So unless the sprint master, unless it is, everybody is really involved and intrinsically motivated, or the sprint master really, will have to keep everything, everyone interested, because, people might just walk away or step away to check messages and emails. So it's really challenging to keep everyone highly engaged because of the remote nature. Um, and then again, effective communication is also sometimes, not as good as the physical one, since keeping everyone on the same page becomes difficult. And then when some part of the team is co-located and others are outside, the co-located team members may start discussing amongst themselves, and then remote members may just fall out of the discussion. So effective communication is one more challenge that you could face. And then one more bigger challenge is technological issues. So you're relying solely on online collaboration software or tools, and this poses a few challenges, like like a learning curve if it's a new tool for some team members, or then there could be audio and video challenges due to low internet connectivity and so on. So these are a few of challenges that you might face holding your first or any remote sprint. Um, so how do we handle these challenges and conduct an effective sprint? I think the first and foremost thing that has worked for us or for me is that we tweak the remote sprint to focus only on ideation. Since imagining that people are meeting online for 5 days is going to be extremely exhausting and tiring. So what we have tried and tested and really it has worked for us is that tweak the sprint to focus only on ideation. So make the sprint an 8-hour sprint, or like split into 2 half days where we use 2 consecutive days for the sprint, and focus only on ideation with key stakeholders. Team does the understand and define steps on their own. I mean, they work as a team, but not in a single, online session synchronously. Everybody works on understand and define before the sprint, and then team also does the prototyping and validating steps after the ideation session. So the actual time when everybody needs to be together at the same time gets reduced, and we can get most benefits out of the sprint. So this is the first and foremost suggestion would be that tweak the sprint and just focus on ideation when people will meet together. And then again, even before, there are some things that we need to take care of before a sprint. So the first thing is plan and set sprint expectations. So not everyone is familiar with sprints. Imagine clients who are trying to build a project and they have no idea about what a sprint is. So you'll have to set sprint expectations with clients, non-designers, or even designers and outsiders of a team. And sometimes a Skype call or a video conferencing call a few days ahead of time, and setting the correct expectations for the sprint, and walking through the sprint process has really helped us. That really works. Then again, you will need the same kind of team that you would require for a normal on-location sprint. You will have to have it multidisciplinary, where the business, client, marketing, engineering, management, and designers, everybody gets together. Ideal team size for sprints, I would say, is 5 to 6 people. Otherwise, if there are more people, it gets a little chaotic or it could get a little out of hand. So I think 5 to 6 people is optimal. The next thing would be get the material. Even if you're going to use online whiteboards, it's important for every team member to be ready with, physical stationery or office supplies, where like thick markers, papers, pencils, and notebooks. What typically happens is that sometimes you're not able to use the tool that you're intending, the online whiteboard. There are connectivity issues, or some team members are not as technology savvy as we would expect them to be. So it's always good for people to keep these office supplies ready, and then you can actually sketch out or write on sticky notes and scan them, or take pictures or show them on a webcam to other participants, or send it to the sprint master. So yes, keep the material ready, the office supplies ready with you, and then set up online collaboration or collaborative tools. Ensure that everyone has access to the required tools. Sometimes what happens is that so if you decide to choose to go with a Slack team call or a video call or screen sharing, or it could be Hangouts or Skype or Realtimeboard or whatever you have. Sometimes people don't have accounts on these tools. So it's difficult. So you make sure that everyone has access to the required tools. Everybody has access to audio and video conferencing, webcams, real-time boards, Slack, Hangouts, or the tool of your choice. And another important thing is that if you're using Realtimeboard, which is a tool for online collaboration, which has really helped us in our sprints, you'll have to make sure that you send the links to members beforehand, so that they don't take time to learn the tool while the sprint is on. Request them to at least not get a hang of the tool by opening it and explore it a little bit. So this is what you would help doing before a sprint. And then let's look at a few things that you'll do during a sprint. So imagine that you have your team, you have your tools set up, and everything is ready, and you're great to go. As a sprint master, or a sprint master is a very nice term or a name that Google Ventures has coined for the person who is going to facilitate the sprint. It would mostly be a UX practitioner, as they have good experience in all the design methods and methodology and processes. So the sprint master would be required to set the stage. It's always helpful to put together a design brief, which you can put inside the tool, and everybody can look at it. Make sure that everybody walks through it, or then take turns going around the session, reading out sections of this brief, so that everybody's brains get warmed up into what we are going to do. The UX or the sprint master can read out the agenda and give a brief overview of what that means. So setting the stage is the first step that you would do during a sprint. Then once everybody is ready to really jump in, this is the best time to recap what you've done as a team offline, before actually getting into this ideating phase. So research recap is really important, and it could be in the form of lightning talks. Lightning talks are short talks where business owners can talk about the vision of the project, of the product. Engineering can talk about technical landscape or limitations. UX can talk about, or the sprint master can talk about insights about the users. So all this warms up the brain and gets everybody in the right mode of solving the right problem for the right people. Collate what everyone knows in Realtimeboard if possible. This actually is a step that you should actually be doing right before the sprint and even during a sprint. So document everything at one place so that everyone has a good view of everything. What that means, so I'll just quickly switch over to the Realtimeboard tool so that I can show you how I set up a typical remote sprint. This is going to take a second more. So it's really, the sprint master has to own this thing about setting up the right everything in the tool, so that everybody has an overview of what they are getting into, and they don't have to go to different documents to look at what's happening. So this is I hope it's displaying correctly. So this is how I've set up a sprint that I worked on recently. Everything that everybody needs to know is right here. This is a completed sprint. So I put it as steps. So the design brief here is step 1. This is where I like to put together design brief with what is the goal of this session, what is the outcome, the team, the constraints, and the agenda. And then we talk about research recap. So this is a project where we did a research recap on some surveys, where we got to know a lot about the users, their demographics, as well as their usage statistics. So everything is highlighted and it's here. So it's great to have everything here if possible. I also gathered some insights from business. So they had done a SWOT analysis exercise, and then we put together everything here so that the lightning talks can start right from here. And then the competitor analysis recap and things like that. So all these points stay on the top of mind since they are here. a lot of work upfront for the person who's putting this together, but believe me, it's really helpful to have everything here. And then, of course, if there are personas that would go here, and then after recapping through everything, we read out the challenge statements, and then we get into activities like diverging and converging and ideating. So yeah, this is how real-time board is, and this is how a typical remote sprint can be run. I like to give participants an overview of what the tool can do. So especially before sketching or before a session starts, I give them a 5-minute overview of all the tools, and so people can actually open up the wireframe section and pull things out from there onto the board, and start creating sketches of interfaces right there. So that's easy and intuitive. So yes, this is how we set up a typical sprint in Realtimeboard. This has been a proven process for us, and it really works. So I'll switch back to the presentation now. So once the research recap is done, it's a good idea to get into round robin and reflections. Make sure that when you're doing the research recap or the lightning talks, of course, the respective stakeholders are going to do the lightning talks, but make sure that everybody also has time to reflect on them or contemplate and think about what are the things that we learned from the research recap and how it is going to help us. So talk about the personas and get into their shoes and think about what a typical persona would do. This is a very good exercise so that everybody thinks from the point of view of that user, and then ideation becomes much more meaningful in that case. So go around the room, ask everybody what they thought about the recap or the lightning talks that they just listened to. Again, it's very important to split the sprint in 2 sessions or smaller sessions on consecutive days and time box activities really well. This is the responsibility of the sprint master. So remote sprints are a lot of work since collaborating online can be very tiring. People are not technologically savvy, or people are not really willing to spend hours in front of looking at a computer screen, talking with other people. It's really tiring. So make sure that each activity is fast-paced and time-bound. So these are some activities that ideation, diverge, and converge activities that are real world versus the remote world. So we might do a how might we, or a card storming or an affinity mapping activity in a physical sprint, which would look like this, as against a card storming activity or affinity mapping activity, which would look like this in an online collaboration tool like Realtimeboard. What I found useful here is that since you don't want users to spend time on figuring out how to duplicate a post-it note on the collaboration tool, or how to really type into it. What I find useful is that I create sections for each person here, and then duplicate the notes and keep them blank for the users to just click in it and type what they want to. So it doesn't take time for them to really play around and create their own workspace, but I create people's workspace and keep them ready so that the focus is only on ideation and not playing around with the tool. So this is how post-it notes and affinity mapping would look like. Of course, we would then group these notes into meaningful clusters. Another activity is this is like a typical user journey on a whiteboard, where we are trying to do everything on the whiteboard as against something in a tool would look like this. But believe me, there's nothing less effective in it. So everything still works. Of course, if the sprint master is a little well versed with the tool or with all the activities, then it's helpful and faster. Then this is how whiteboarding or paper sketches look in a sprint, and this is how they would look if you do it in Realtimeboard. These are some few wireframes that we did actually inside the sprint, and there was this facility of adding notes and thoughts wherever needed, and we could just drag and drop icons and progress bars and things like that made it really easy to create these. And then again, if people or stakeholders are not comfortable doing this, they can always sketch their ideas out and send pictures to the sprint master through another tool, and the sprint master can just paste it in that person's workspace. So this is how this is how the sketching or wireframing, quick dirty wireframing activity would look like in an online sprint. And then when we converge, we use activities like dot sticker voting or critique, and then discussing it as teams, and choosing the best ideas that can be done. So at the left, you can see that there are these dot voting stickers which have been put to vote the best idea. Similarly, in the online tool that we just talked about, what I typically like to do is ask everyone to select one color and just do a +1 to the idea. Just type in +1 to the idea that they have liked and vote for it. Otherwise, then there's also this facility of adding or voting on each post-it note. So you just click on that note, and then you click on the emojis, and then click on the vote emoji, so that you are kind of voting for that idea. And then when another user clicks it, it gets 2 votes and things like that. So both these techniques work really well, but we find the +1 technique far better than anything else. So yes, creating and voting is also equally effective and good in online tools. So then once you have done everything, and you're trying to close the sprints, all the activities are over, make sure that you talk about next steps with the participants and close the session. Tell them that you'll be keeping them in the loop and letting them know and sending them everything. They'll have this link of Realtimeboard with them, so they can see what has gone through in there, and everything is right there. So then after a remote sprint, the things that you would do after a remote sprint are much similar to a physical sprint, except that when you document inputs, you won't have to do as much as you do in a physical sprint, since there's no digitalizing any post-it notes or any sketches or any other ideas, because you have it in a digital format already. It's been typed for you, so you can carefully store and analyze all that artifacts inside Realtimeboard itself, so that all ideas can be referenced later on. The next step, of course, is the one that you have left out of the sprint, out of the online session, is that wireframing and testing. Create digital wireframes by taking inputs and sketches from your ideation session, and test the wireframes with users. If required, you can do this as a team again online, and do maybe a focus group for attitudinal testing, or do a user testing for behavioral testing on your wireframes. And then it's also really important to follow through. So the entire design and development process, follow through this process to ensure that the design decisions that you made during the design sprint or workshop and testing are translated into the actual product. So more or less, it's the same that you would do after a typical on-location sprint. So follow through rigorously and see that those features are actually built and shipped. So that's it from me. The design sprints that we have conducted have helped these products evolve into great products. If you want to request a remote sprint for your own team, get in touch with us. We'll be really happy to help you out. These are our contact details displayed on the screen. We would like to thank our webinar partner, Realtimeboard, for offering a 10% off paid subscription for our users. If you want to avail this subscription, just type in the offer code 10 off Mindbrowser that you can see on the screen. Thank you very much.